Hi, I'm Garmbreak1, and this is Midgardia's Cool Crowdfunding Show. I'm here today with Banana Chan and Amanda Call. How's it going?
Good.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Oh,
Hi, thanks for having us.
I'm always glad to have, I'm glad to have Banana Chan always, and Amanda, I'm glad to have you for the first time.
Yay.
So, you two are here today to talk about Deimos Academy, so why don't you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Amanda, would you like to talk a little bit about your artwork as I describe what Deimos is?
Sure. Sure. So
Awesome.
yeah. Do you want to go
I
first with the premise?
I could go. I could talk about the premise, and then Amanda, if you want to talk about the artwork.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So, Deimos Academy is basically a GM-less horror tabletop role-playing game in a coloring book, and that's why the art aspect is so important because Amanda has done a phenomenal job on like literally all the art. So the game uses paper dolls, and basically you are adults returning back to your old creepy boarding school. Um, and you are trying to uncover your fears, or you're trying to uncover like what's happened to you while you were there. You're sent back for a reunion and you're trying to just like figure out what's going on. Meanwhile, your fears are manifesting themselves in the school itself, and you have to eventually try to escape the school. And I'll let Amanda take over from here on the artwork.
Yeah, so the visual components are a really big part of the game. You actually have your characters are actually paper dolls, and we have a bunch of different paper dolls in that look all sorts of different ways for you to choose from for your character. And since they are just basic outlines, you also get to color them however you want and modify them, draw things on them if you want to customize your character further. And you actually take those little paper dolls and you move them around from room to room as you're trying to uncover memories of your time at the boarding school when you were younger. And the rooms are actually separate sheets, like tearaway sheets that you actually place the dolls on, and you write on and color on those room sheets as well to interact with it as you're uncovering these different memories and uncovering what the big terrible evil is that is hiding in this place.
Nice. That sounds really cool. I know a lot of people who will be very excited about all the coloring.
Yeah, people get really into it when we've done any of like the play tests. People have a lot of fun. When they're like, "What? I get to do arts and crafts? Like that's part of the game?" Yeah, it is.
Amanda, I spent like an hour coloring in my character.
I loved that so much. That was so awesome. I was like, "Oh, I love to see you getting into it."
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. It was really, real good. So, I guess what one important thing to get out of the way is like the horror at Deimos on what kind of like real world horror to complete fantasy horror scale is it? That was a sentence.
Oh yeah, I think it's closer to if you've ever read like a Stephen King novel, it's closer to that kind of horror. So it's more like it, right? So you're creating your own fears, and you're choosing fears from like a table that we have set up for you if you prefer to do it that way. But generally, like the players decide, what the fear level is.
Yeah, and similar, It is a really good example. Stephen King is a good example in general because you can bring in as much realistic fear and supernatural fear as you want. Like the players get to kind of decide what that level is because you can have realistic fears and you can have like realistic traumatic and scary memories brought into the game of things like just bad normal stuff that has happened to you. Or you can have it be more fantastical and you can have it be like ghosts and monsters and stuff. We leave it pretty open ended and give the players a lot of choice and autonomy there to tell the type of story they want to.
All right, that makes sense, and yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Um, so it's a GM-less role playing game. Which one of you would like to tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so how it works is the game itself gives you a series of prompts to follow so that you can go through the different rooms. The coloring book itself also has like a list of prompts so that you know what you're doing. Within each room. And when you go into a room, basically what it looks like is each of you will roll a die, you will find an item, and you would try to collect the memory from the item. So, the higher you roll, the more likely you're going to get a memory. But the lower you roll, the more likely you're going to have to remove that memory. And what that looks like is you would tear up the card that actually has the memory on it. So it's like it's a little intense when it comes to like, oh no, I've rolled like a 1 or a 2. Like I now have to tear up this top card, and we'll never be able to figure out like what our memory was, and we've lost it forever into the ether.
That's awesome, actually.
Thanks. So it's got some legacy elements in it, sort of like Betrayal at Mystery Mansion, or sorry, not Betrayal at Mystery Mansion. Oh my God, that's the game that I worked on. Betrayal Legacy is sort of it has that sort of similar mechanic where you get to modify stuff. In most legacy games, you get to modify things. And for a later time when you play, that thing is now changed. Like, how do you proceed with this collaborative storytelling game?
Slight tangent, but every time I'm at a game store with my wife, and I see Scooby-Doo Betrayal at Mystery Mansion, I'm just like, okay, Banana-chan worked on that. And several other things. I just kind of go through and point out everything I've done interviews for.
Oh no.
I think my record is 7 in a single store.
Oh God, that's a lot.
I'm doing my best. I'm getting up there.
Thank you.
So is there some this isn't a one-shot kind of thing then? This is like a campaign, or?
It is generally a one-shot, but you can use your character, like the same character, a different way. So like, if you wanted to carry over your character from one shot into another one shot, you can totally do that. And like another cool thing about the different rooms is that you get to color in the items as you roll. So if you roll a 3 or 4, you get to color in the item, and those are used as prompts. So Amanda, you can probably talk a little bit about that as well, because you've been doing all the drawings for
Yeah, so the items are like highlighted in the room of things that you have to, those are the objects you're trying to go to collect your memories. And then if you do successfully collect the memory, you also can use that as a prompt. And that way you can like come up with, use the memory that you draw and the object itself to come up with kind of like a seed for a story. And then you're just role playing and doing the collaborative storytelling with the other players of what that looks like for you. And you don't necessarily have to use those objects, and you don't even necessarily have to use the objects that we have in the room, because we also have in the book, there will also be like an alternative sheet of objects. So if for whatever reason the objects that come already in the rooms you don't want to use, or either because it's something that you just don't want involved in your game, or you're like, this object does not speak to me. I would like something else. You can actually just kind of like cut out one of the other objects from that extra sheet and paste it right on top, which actually also makes it a lot more replayable. So the rooms already each have like 4 items in them. But if you want to play the game again, you can swap out those items with some of the extra ones so that you have different seeds for those stories without having to necessarily be locked into the exact same thing you did before.
Right. Is there going to be a stretch goal to make sticker sheets for the extra items? Stickers.
I wish, but stickers. I mean, for now, they are items on a separate tearaway sheet that you can cut out and glue on. So we are still working out the nitty gritty for our stretch goals. We're still trying to figure out like what's the best way to price everything, just because everything is so up in the air right now with production costs and where is all the paper gone, and where where have all of our shipping containers gone. So we're still trying to figure that out, but hopefully we'll be able to do that.
Because we certainly don't want to hold up an entire Kickstarter project because we can't like source one sheet of stickers. Like that would be a major bummer. We don't want to do that.
So it's a solid we'll see then. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited
we will have bookmarks though.
Nice. So I guess the big question here is, why a coloring book? Like how did that come about?
Oh, this is a long. I mean, actually, it's not that long of a story. It's like a 5-minute story, I would say. I think Amanda and we were talking about making a game. Well, initially, the concept for the game was based on the Nutshell Studies by Frances Glesner Lee. And she I believe she was an heiress, and she had like a lot of free time, and she made all of these really intricate doll houses depicting murder scenes. And these doll houses depicting murder scenes were so intricate that, like, I think it was like the FBI or something like started using them as training tools for a hot second. And like that was like the inspiration for like, hey, let's make our own sort of dollhouse thing. It turns out that people are very not willing to do paper craft stuff when they're like, hey, I have to make this, like, this house, or like I have to make like all these things. And yeah, through playtesting, we discovered that, like, it's a little trickier to try and get people to do to make like a full house, using paper or using any sort of crafting material. So what we decided to do was we decided to have it in a coloring book, and everything would be like, tearaway sheets. It would be like, easier for you to manage, easier for you to sort of modify as you go through the different rooms. And I think there was also this element of, hey, like, we see a lot of miniatures being made. Like, miniatures are a big thing, but what if we made it a little more user friendly and less terrifying and less like a little bit more accessible, and turn them into like paper dolls, right? Like, what if we had paper dolls, and what if we had those as, the things that you can modify and customize and so on and so forth with your friends? So I think those were like two of the ideas that we had going into this project.
Yeah, because it definitely, the core idea started with the Nutshells doll houses. And it was like, well, we can't really expect most people to want to construct an entire paper doll house. Well, what's something that we can do along a similar vein, but that's a lot easier? And that's how, like Banana said, we ended up with paper dolls and the coloring sheet rooms that are basically, they're basically just like a top-down view of like a floor plan of a room. So you get an idea of the space and you can move your little characters around in it, but it's very simple and accessible.
Right. It's not a, full hex grid battle map with like
no
elevation markers and
Yeah, no, it's a little easier than that. And the paper dolls themselves, like, you don't have to be terribly crafty it's basically just like 6 straight cuts to get them to stand up. You can actually get away with doing it with like 4 straight cuts and a couple of folds. So
that's great news for me.
Yeah. So if you don't feel particularly crafty, you can still do it. It's fine.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I would not put together a full paper doll house. I'm sorry. I have a model kit I've been working on for like a year. I paid $80 for it. Still not done.
They are very intimidating.
It's just snapped together. I don't even glue stuff or paint anything. It's still taking me forever. Are there any other aspects of Deimos Academy that you'd like to highlight? Either of you?
Oh, I would say there are a couple of things. There were the uniforms that you made, Amanda.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that. So the other paper doll aspect of it is that if your character is not doing so well, if you are consistently rolling low and failing your attempts at remembering things, you also start basically regressing and becoming one with the evil in the school. And to represent that, we actually have paper doll clothing, which is the school uniforms that you start putting on your little paper doll standee to like visually represent that you are becoming a part of the school again. And so that's pretty fun too, because there's only a couple of articles of clothing, so you can only really fail a couple of times before it's like, nope, you have joined the evil team now.
And I hate it when I go to visit my high school and I get subsumed into the like eternal psychic energies of it.
It's a real bummer.
It ruins your whole week.
I haven't been to a school reunion, and I really don't want to. Like, I think I recently had, what was it, like it was like a 10th or 20th or something like that, right? Like school reunion, where they sent out an email and they were like, "You're invited to this thing," and I was just like,
You were like,
you know what?
"Delete."
I mean, is there free food, first of all? But if there's no free food and you're asking me to, pay to go, then delete.
Yeah, I believe this year would have been my like 10th high school anniversary reunion thing, but because of the present circumstances, that's not happening.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. I went to my 10-year reunion. It was like a very casual meetup at a pizza place, and I showed up for like 30 minutes and was like, I'm good. I'm gonna go home now.
But was there free food?
No, of course not.
There wasn't even free pizza.
There wasn't even
What?
free pizza. No, you had to order your own pizza. So I got myself like an ice cream cone, and then I was like, all right, see y'all later. Bye.
Let's do this again in 10 years. Bye.
Or we could not. That'd be fine too.
I don't know why. I just imagine you like rolling out on Heelys after that. It
I
seems
would probably hurt myself on Heelys.
So what's the replayability of Deimos Academy like? Like, because it's all tearaway sheets and stuff. Does it come with spares, or would you reuse the ones that you've colored in before, or how's that work?
Yes. So the coloring book actually comes with a few copies of all the rooms. So you can definitely use, different rooms if you wanted to. And also we're offering a PDF version of the game online, so that way people can print them off themselves. And I think there was one more thing that I wanted to mention, which was the maze aspect, where you actually literally have to try to escape this. I mean, is literally the right word? No, it's not. Actually try to escape this school. And how it works is there is a maze. There's like literally a maze. That time I used it correctly. And you have to use your little paper doll standees to try and escape this maze. And that's based on how well you roll. So if you rolled a 3, you can move out 3 spaces. But if you rolled like, a 1 or something, you would only get to move 1. But each space also has a different prompt. So as you land on different prompts, you get to answer them. You get to describe, what the school's history is like, and sort of give the story a little bit more closure.
Right, so like Monopoly, but with closure. I got you.
Right, exactly.
And fun.
Or not with closure. I don't know.
Well, Monopoly has foreclosure. This has closure.
Oh,
Similar.
yeah. Oh, wow.
Terrible pun. I'm sorry. That's really cool.
The main section of it is really fun too, because at that point, like, everybody is answering these prompts like really rapid fire. So what we've found happens when we play these games is that's when like everybody just starts like totally riffing on whatever the big culmination of it is, and it always ends up being really cool and dramatic, where everyone kind of like adds to whatever this final confrontation looks like and ties together all the threads of the story that they've laid out earlier. And I don't know if that was necessarily like what we were planning on with the way that it was structured, but that's how it worked out, which is really awesome. So
right, and ideally, you all put your brains together and tie it together into one satisfying conclusion, or you burn the school down. One of the two.
I mean, that's a satisfying conclusion too. So
that's fair. Play it by a campfire, just kind of chuck them as you go, Yeah. Any other big elements I haven't brought up?
Ooh.
I should say the memory cards. So we mentioned a couple of times the memories that you can try to recall. So along with it being a collaborative storytelling game and being so player directed, all of those memories are things that people actually write on their own. Like, all of the players write those at the beginning of the game, and they're kind of based on very basic prompts like good memory, bad memory. And then you shuffle them all together in a deck, so anybody can end up with those, but they are still things that all of the players generate on their own. So that's not something that we like have already packaged in the game. So that also adds to the replayability, because you could be remembering completely different things game to game too.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the element of shuffling them together and handing them out.
That's also what makes it so dramatic when you destroy one, because you don't even know whose you destroyed. Like, you may not have actually destroyed your own, and it's not like a game component. It's something somebody sitting at the table with you just wrote. Yeah, gone now.
Chuck it in the
Reminds me
fire.
of art school.
Speaking of art, the art in this is wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
It's real good.
Thank you.
I'm just looking at the images in the image in the Dicebreaker article, and it's very obvious which are the like highlighted items and what's just chairs. I think it's a music room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think the music room was in that article.
Yeah, I think so too. So each room has a total of four different items. So each player would basically choose which item they want to collect the memory from. And what that looks like is, they would go over to it, they would roll a die to see if they actually can get the memory, and then they would just role play it out.
So what kind of research went into Deimos Academy?
So Austin and I actually interviewed a few of my friends who went to boarding school, who I went to boarding school with, actually. I went to boarding school as well. And during those 4 years, it was sort of like a very weird time because I didn't recognize that it was like a traumatic experience until much later as an adult. And like, content warning here, like there are certain aspects of like our past that had like that featured like that had themes of childhood abuse and all of that sort of stuff. And so we interviewed, I think, 3 or 4 now, 3 or 4 people, and they were all talking about what their experiences were like generally, what it was like for them going to the school that I went to, and then we also talked to some other people from other boarding schools as well, and what their experiences were like. And so from that, we gathered a lot of quotes, we gathered a lot of information, and from there we sort of like wrote up some lore. So Austin did a bulk of the lore writing. And that's, I think, in the first couple of chapters that we have in the book. The book is pretty short, just because it's like, in a coloring book. So there are 2 different books. So there's the actual rules book, and then there's the coloring book. So the coloring book has all the takeaways and everything. But in the main book, the rule book, we feature a lot of fictional lore for this made-up school for Deimos Academy, but we also integrated a lot of real life stuff that had happened to myself and my friends into basically like building the school, so that way the players get an understanding of like, what is this place like, and also it was a little cathartic for me as well, just like writing this stuff out. And we also had on, because it deals with such heavy topics, we also had on 2 consultants. So one of the consultants was Quinn B. Rodriguez, and the other one is Dare Hickman. Dare focused mainly on the artwork, so making sure that we were representing everyone properly, and we were, thinking about, all the diversity that we want to include in the game itself. And Quinn focused on making sure that that all the lore and all the mechanics were safe for players, and were good for players to play out. And we have all our content warnings, and making sure that we're setting expectations for our players and readers.
Right, because it's a lot of these subjects can be kind of touchy, especially given some stuff in the news recently. I'm glad to hear that that's all sorted.
Yeah, we definitely had a great team working with us on this.
I'm glad. So I guess that your experience in boarding school was a little bit less bad than Deimos Academy.
Just a little bit. So we used to. So this is like another content warning. This is like a childhood abuse thing, but we used to have this thing called Gatings, where and like, after I graduated, I like thought like, oh, Gatings were a regular thing. Like every school has them. And so
Not
I
a
was
thing
like,
in public school, no.
yeah, apparently not. So like I thought it was just like detention, right? So like detention, you just like go outside, and so we had this one teacher who was like the bad gating teacher, and what he would make us do is like weird stuff, like yeah, you can go shovel snow, but instead of shoveling snow with a shovel, he would make us use like a plastic spoon or something like that. So it was like weird. I don't want to curse. Am I allowed to curse on this stream?
Yeah, go for it.
Weird shit like that. And so this one time I remember like I had to do like a gating where it was me and like I think 2 other people where we had to rake leaves, but we didn't have like a rake. We had to use our hands. And it was like under this tree that just kept having like leaves falling the entire time. Stop me if this is too much. This is just like weird shit. But like
It's really weird.
yeah, it was like a very weird experience.
It's weird because it's also supposed to be like intentionally frustrating and humiliating too, which is just like what why? Like just make a kid sit in detention. Like what is this? It's messed up.
Yeah. It was a weird experience.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of people that we talked to also had like similar experiences.
That's a little horrifying. I can confirm that did not happen at my school, although we did have a teacher pull a knife on a student, and one teacher did keep a whip in his desk. But it was just
oh my god!
This is also one thing that happens because at the beginning of the game, we like all the players get to like make the school. So you talk about like where the school is located and like what is it known for and like why do kids get sent here and that sort of thing. And one of the things is like scandals or controversies that had, and this is when everybody's like messed up stories from their high school all come out before anyone can decide on what the scandal in the game is going to be. They all have to share. But at my high school, this happened.
Yeah, you gotta allot 30 minutes to like time box that,
Yep.
The kid did not actually get stabbed, just so we're clear.
It's good.
Oh my god.
No stabbing is good.
Just pulled out a knife out of his desk, looked at the kid who was disrupting the class, stared at him until he stopped, and then put it back.
Wow.
Yeah, not exactly appropriate, but okay.
Yikes.
Rural Alberta's a trip, I tell you.
Wow.
Wow, yeah.
It's one of those things where like I realize everybody else finds that a lot more horrifying than I do when I say it aloud.
It's funny because I also went to a Canadian high school. Like that's where I went to boarding school, so I'm just like, are all Canadian schools like this?
I think it's more of a rural school thing because I don't find that exceptionally shocking. Like that never happened at my school, but I could see it happening at my school. Like that would be within the realm of if somebody told me that happened at my school, I'd be like, yeah, checks out.
Rural areas and urban areas have very different problems.
Very different, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Different standards of what's like shocking behavior and what isn't.
So these are the type of things that could happen at Deimos Academy.
It could.
Trust me, it's actually really cathartic, like going through all of this. I mean, for some people, if you don't like the game, that's totally fine too. Like, please do not re-traumatize yourself if you try to play this and you're like, this might happen.
Yeah, well, and we do emphasize calibration tools and setting boundaries in the gameplay of like, hey, yeah, this can be a really awesome and cathartic thing to like think about stuff that happened to you during high school or just the high school experience in general or boarding school specifically. But obviously there are certain things that people are not going to want in their game. And so we make sure that that's a big part of what we present in the rules too, of like, hey, make sure that everyone at the table is okay with what's being presented and is ready for what's being presented. And so we have like worksheets for lines and veils and X and O cards and all of that kind of stuff, just to make sure that people are enjoying the game and the experience in a safe way that everyone's going to be able to enjoy and not end up having like a terrible time instead.
Right, which is the ideal, because it is a horror game, but you want that in a particular context, I guess.
Right, yeah, you have to hit that sweet spot of like, this is kind of freaky, and I'm having a visceral reaction to it, but I'm not like actually uncomfortable and no longer having a good time with it.
Yeah. You want to be good scared.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anything else about Deimos Academy? I know I've said that like 4 times now, but anything else about Deimos Academy that I haven't touched on that you two would like to bring up?
Amanda, your cover looks really cool.
Oh, thank you. I was going for a whole I was inspired by words. I was inspired by surrealist collage for the cover. That was kind of a direction I wanted to go with that. And so that was a lot of fun, like pulling different elements of like old photographs and stuff and kind of mashing it up with like things that look like they could have come from an old boarding school and things that are more modern. A lot of them are like weird old public domain photographs, and then a lot of it is actually photographs I took myself and spliced together. So that was a really fun project, and I'm glad it came out with a like actual creepy factor that I was going for. So
it does look like it hits the sweet spot of like faintly unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
So just before I let you two go from my eternal prison of cool crowdfunding, Amanda, you have a webcomic. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, sure. So my webcomic is not at all horror based. It's actually a fantasy webcomic called Age of Night. It's AGEOFNIGHT. And I update that every Wednesday. It's like a fantasy epic quest type thing. There's a talking cat and there's magic. And sometimes it's a little bit scary, but mostly it's just like fantasy adventure.
Nice. And there will be a link to that below as well.
Yay.
Banana-chan,
It's very cute. I love it.
It sounds like it.
Oh, thank you.
Banana-chan, I'd ask if you have any other projects going, but I know you've got like 60, so pick one.
Oh gosh, pick one. All right.
Maybe like a top 3.
We can do top 3.
I can do 2. Okay, so one. Actually, both of them are getting launched onto Kickstarter in October. So
Nice.
the first one is the suburban consumption of the monstrous.
I'm so excited for this one. You have no idea.
Thank you. I'm so excited for it too. So I just spoke with Pelgrane. So Pelgrane is a publisher, and Sadia and I, Sadia Bees and I, we are the designers for this anthology of horror house LARPs, and they're all American freeform LARPs. They're all very simple, to set up and everything. All you need is a dinner table and some people. Or you can eat by yourself. I mean, there are solo games in there too. So like if you want to just play some games by yourself, totally possible as well. Oh gosh, we only have 5 minutes. All right. So we have this Kickstarter. We just talked to Pelgrane Press, and they're thinking about doing an add-on, which is very cool, which is an engraved knife that you can potentially get for this Kickstarter.
What?
But we're not sure yet. Like, fingers crossed it does happen. But we are hoping that, all goes well, we might get this done, and that's like the most exciting thing for me right now. So there's that, and then the second thing is that I think I could talk about this. Yeah, I'll just talk about it. Whatever. So Senful Lim and I, we are actually we have a game that's coming out called Exquisite Crime, and it is a exquisite corpse game where you are literally making an exquisite corpse, like you're literally drawing it at the table. And you're trying to solve a crime together because you're consulting psychic detectives, and some of you might be real psychics, some of you might not be real psychics, and you're just making stuff up to fit in with the other psychics, and you're just trying to solve crimes together, and that's basically the game.
I love this so much.
And Exquisite Corpse is the thing where like you draw on folded paper and each person has to draw from like the lines that are left.
Yep.
Yes, exactly.
Very good, very good. Also, I've never seen that 5-minute warning pop up before.
Just trying to stress us out, I guess.
I am so stressed. It's 4 minutes now.
Oh, God. Well, I guess we should probably end it here. Yes, there will be links to Amanda's webcomic below and also Banana Chan's Twitter. You should follow Banana Chan on Twitter because she does, like, things every week, pretty much.
All of the things, all of the
I'm
time.
trying to say no to things.
Good luck.
Thank you.
If we really wanted to, we could have Banana Chan on here for like every week and we would not run out of content for a while.
I mean, probably.
Speaking of which,
As long as Amanda I'm dragging Amanda into this.
Good.
It's true.
well, for all of us here, have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.